All right, here we go, live. Good morning, everybody. It's 9:16 a.m. Is it Tuesday today, Ben?
It is Tuesday, yes.
Tuesday. I'm losing track of days. Welcome to the Plant a Seed podcast. Today's a bit of a different episode in that I had a guest lined up and then I had a car accident, which we'll talk a bit more about soon. And it's put me out of action for the last three and a bit. What's actually today, it's a month on the day. Believe it or not, it's been 1 month.
Jesus.
Yeah, 24th of October, this car accident was, and it feels great to be back home and doing some normal things. But I had been thinking and reflecting a lot in the last month, and I thought I would go ahead and do an episode of the Plant a Seed podcast just based on my journey and my learnings and different stages of my life. And I was thinking, rather than a monologue, I would quite like to have someone to have that conversation with. And also, I'd been in talks with my younger brother, Ben, who I'll introduce you to shortly. In fact, I'll get him to introduce himself, where I was actually going to interview him on the podcast to talk about his journey. And so instead of that, I thought, well, why don't we mash the two things together? I'll talk a bit about my journey and Ben can talk a bit about his and what we're both committed to. And we'll just make it a really cool, casual conversation. So that's what it's about today. And Ben, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Ben, I call him, for everybody on who's tuning in, I call Ben my big little brother. You might be able to tell he's not a small fella. But so yeah, my big big brother, brother. Ben, introduce yourself, please.
All right, yeah. I'm Ben. Jono's your little big brother. Basically, yeah, just a wee bit of an age gap between us. 24, you're what, 31 now?
31, yeah.
Basically just grew up as Jono's younger brother. I'm doing a Bachelor of Applied Sciences at the Otago Polytech at the moment, just getting into the exercise and health field. And just doing a bunch of placements around sort of rehab and preventative measures to work with some of the health issues that New Zealand's facing currently, and just looking to make a big difference in the way people interact with their lives, I guess. Just be a bit more active and eat a bit better, and hopefully we can make a difference.
And I like how you say preventative, bro. Like you're not treating symptoms, which is what a lot of healthcare is based on, is just treating the symptoms of the problems. You're more interested in going back a step.
Yeah, for sure. I'm literally applying for a placement today for next year with Active Families, which is basically if a GP has an overweight patient that's like quite young, they'll send them through to Active Families, and we get in and interact with the child and their family and just try and make changes there to sort of prevent any further issues.
Wow. And what does it look like to be sort of proactive with your health? I know you're sort of, you've done a lot of training in the gym and with regards to, personal training, strength conditioning. So there's that aspect of health, but you're also interested in sort of nutrition and what people eat as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, like for me, like cooking, I just really enjoy it. I see a lot of people don't enjoy cooking, and so they'll just resort to sort of the fast foods or just cooking the same old boring stuff. I think if you can sort of bring that passion into the kitchen, it makes things a lot easier to make those healthier choices. And but not even just that, like the degree teaches that sort of holistic view point. So it's everything. It's the social connections you've got with your family and your friends. It's connection to the land. Like it's also a big sort of interconnection with like traditional Māori beliefs. So yeah, that land I think is a big one too. Like especially living in a city now, like you see people they just sort of stay inside, go to work, go home. They don't have that connection, and I feel like they can do wonders for like your mental health. Like you can use it as a way to get active, go for a walk out in the bush.
Or grow your own food.
Grow your own food, exactly, yeah.
They say that there's microbes in the soil that act as antidepressants. And for anyone that's spent any time in their garden, that feeling you get afterwards, it's pretty easy to believe that as the truth. You get in there, you spend a couple of hours in the garden, it feels pretty good. And then what it's like to eat the food that you've grown yourself, it's beyond a feeling. It's
Yeah, man. Even like I was just at my mate's place the other day, and his parents let us grab some strawberries out of the garden. So much better than store-bought ones, man.
Yeah. So on that note, bro, when you were a young lad, it's like, where do we start here? But you've had a journey with regards to your weight and your health, physically. Do you want to talk to the audience a bit about that?
Yeah,
just
I guess.
Keep it casual, bro. Like, if you want to go back any further steps into your childhood, like, that's, I'll be doing a bit of that.
Yeah.
There's no rules here on this conversation.
I guess for me, because I was bit by a dog when I was about 7 years old, and that changed just my behaviors drastically. We were all very, very sort of active children growing up, all played sport and got out and about. But then, when I got bit, I sort of didn't want to go outside because I was terrified of dogs. So it sort of became more sedentary, just playing video games a lot more. Mum, I guess she treated me a bit different too. She just let me eat whatever I wanted, because she was so worried about her baby boy.
Yeah.
But put on a bit of weight, and then sort of got to a point around 17. I was well over 100 kilos, and just got sick of it. And one of my mates started going to the gym, so I went with him one day, and then just kind of got hooked from there. Dropped about a bit over 20 kilos and just sort of kept it off, and been trying to just work on my strength and athleticism over the last sort of 7 or 8 years. Yeah, it sort of led me to get into this field, is trying to make a difference with other people, get them started on their own sort of journey,
And do you mind talking about you're okay to talk about the dog?
Yeah.
So I remember, you're right, we were very active children. We're always, out there, we helped our dad a lot with stuff out on the wee farm and doing firewood, and then both of us, we sort of both came from, divided families. For those of you that don't know, Ben and I have the same father, but we have different mothers. And with the large age gap, Ben and I weren't super close until pretty recently, wasn't it, bro? Like, really?
Yeah, the last couple of years, really.
Because it was true, like what Ben said about, him and my other little brother, Jazz, were really into the gaming thing. And for me, that's not something I've been, super interested in. And so I couldn't relate to my little bros. And, but Ben, do you want to just sort of talk us through those behavior changes and the stuff that came up for you after the dog bite, and feel free to talk about the day as well, what happened?
Yeah. So it was just my sisters had some friends around, and one of them brought their dog. I'd been around it plenty of times, and I was just patting it one day, and all of a sudden it just sort of latched onto my face. It was pretty shit. I remember just running out into the lounge, and my mum was watching TV, and she freaked out, and they just drove me to the hospital. But I remember, because I was only 7, I remember I asked mum, I was like, am I going to die? Like fucking hurt. But so it was pretty funny, and just probably at least 10 or 12 years, I was just terrified of dogs. Like, if one barked, I'd be like, shit, get a big jump. But because, my street, just about every person, it's pretty common. Most people have dogs. That's something you don't really think about. But after that, sort of just didn't want to go outside. I spent, I'm not sure, must have been around a month or so at home, just recovering, because they didn't want me going to school, because they're afraid my face would get infected and stuff with the wounds. So pretty much just stayed home. I remember you gave me a Game Boy, actually.
It was
Game Boy
my
Color.
fault.
Yeah.
That
It was-
green thing, it was like a jade color.
yeah. With Pokemon Blue on it.
Is that where it went?
Yeah, I gave it back to you
Did you give it back to me?
Yeah,
They're collectible now.
yeah. But yeah, that was sort of because we didn't really have game consoles growing up. Dad
No.
didn't have a thing with technology.
Jamie got one when you guys moved up to the South Hill.
Yeah, we got Mum bought one for us as a family.
That's right.
Must have been about 10 years old. But yeah, that was our first sort of experience with games, and that was cool. Like that brought me and Jamie closer together.
Yeah,
was the
for sure.
games. But yeah, just sort of grew from there, and then Jamie moved overseas, and he bought me a Xbox 360. Well, he bought a new one and gave me his old one because he was living in Australia, so that was another way to connect.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can definitely see like the good points of them. Like, they do allow you to connect with people that you're not able to see, but they do definitely like they are addictive.
I actually remember, bro, when Jamie was overseas and you were a young fella spending a lot of time on the game console, when I had that car accident when I was about 17 and broke my femur.
Yeah, so I didn't really know about that. Like, I knew you'd had an accident, but I didn't know like the severity of it.
Yeah, I guess that's how distant we were, eh?
Yeah.
And so what was it like? Like, was there you had this fear of dogs? And I remember, like, because I had a big dog, Boss. He was a pretty big dog, but you knew Boss.
Yeah.
But that didn't change things. You knew that other
Nah,
dog as well.
Yeah, like.
And I remember I'd come round and I'd forget.
Mm,
And of course, Boss was always with me everywhere I went.
yeah.
And I'd see you would tense up and you would literally like retreat, like you would go back inside, and I'd say, oh shit, I'll go put Boss in the car.
Yeah.
I felt so bad, like you could see it on your body language, like you just were just like struck with fear.
Yeah, man. Especially like because dogs are so friendly, they want to get close to you, and I'm just like, watch it, mate.
Yeah.
I guess people do forget they are animals. Like,
yeah,
they're pets, they're fine. It's like,
yeah,
until they're not.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Exactly.
I'm a lot better with them now. Like, just living with our other brother Jamie. Like they've had 2 young dogs, and so I've been able to grow up around them. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to when you were real little, Ben's not had an easy life. we were sort of talking about this before when I brought up the idea of doing this conversation together. Ben and I are really lucky to be, here alive right now. We've both been through a fair bit of stuff. I remember when I was a kid, Ben was just recently a pretty newborn and was just getting mobile and had just started crawling. So you would have been, less than 1. And you were a little baby. I don't know how heavy you were. And out in Wyo Downs, which is where my father lived with Ben and Jamie and Ange and Rach and their mother Maria, who's like my stepmother, and me and my sister used to go out there every second weekend, and it was always really exciting. Driving over there and thinking about catching up with my brothers and sisters. And I always remember Jamie was like my best friend all growing up, even still to this day, I consider him a really good friend, one of my best friends. Circumstances in life have, created a situation where it's hard for us to connect now, but back in the day, it was always like, man, I was looking forward to seeing Jamie. I remember one day we were coming up, me and Jaleesa might have been about 7, 8, and Jamie, where those big trees out the back of the place in Wyo Downs. Ben, I don't know if you remember, you were just...
I don't remember Wyo Downs at all. I think the only thing I remember is holding onto the electric fence and getting shocked by it. I couldn't let go.
So it was a wee farmlet out in Wyo Downs. It was just between sort of Waimate and the Waitaki River. And I remember coming in, and Jamie used to wait for us up in the trees. Me and Jamie used to climb the trees, and these big, big old macrocarpa trees. And so me and Jaleesa, or mainly me, I'd go running up there every time I come home with Dad, and Jamie would always be out there. And this one time, we couldn't find him, and Maria said he had gone. This has Ben and Jamie's mum. Had said he had gone to wait for us, and he wasn't in his usual spot. He had found this other little nook up the top of a tree, and because at the top of the trees you could see the road that you enter the property on, and so he'd be up there waiting, and he'd fallen asleep. Like, I'm talking high, that would have been 15 meters in the air. And yeah, so anyway, I remember going back to when Ben was just a wee bubba, and I was there on this weekend, and Ben decided it'd be a good idea to climb out or crawl out towards the pond, where we had an old it was an old metal stand with a pump on top of it, and it was one of those pumps that would have been driven by a windmill back in the day, and likely pumped out of the pond just to feed water to possibly even the house. It was right by the house. And Ben had crawled out and pulled this pump down onto himself, onto his head actually. And like, as a child that's not even got a fully formed skull, that there was pretty significant. And I remember Dad and Ben's mum, Maria, taking him he went to Timaru in the end, I think. And yeah, like, it was Ben, like me, very lucky to be alive. These little things that do really change you as a person, these little experiences. I can go back to one just around that time, actually. It would have been just before this, would have been one of the first memories I've ever had, the earliest memories I've had, when I was 5 years old. And this moment actually shaped me as a human being, right up until I distinguished it and identified it. But basically, I was 5 years old. I'm a twin. And so my sister and I, it was always sort of like a subtle competition for, attention and, just general sibling rivalry. But being twins, I guess it was amplified. And 5 years old, and I used to play up a bit. Those of you that knew me growing up when I was a young fellow, I was a bit of a little shit. And this one day I'd been playing up particularly, well, and we were getting ready for school, meant to be getting ready for school. And I remember vivid details of this day, like my mum was in her pink nightgown that morning. She had these slippers, these sheep's wool slippers, and I was being a little shit, taunting my sister, and mum came in, and at this stage she'd had enough. She's solo mother of two twins. It's amazing what she did. And she come in and she sat me down on her knee. She had been grumpy, and then she obviously got beyond that point of grumpy, and it had all sort of gotten on top of her. And I remember she just stopped being grumpy, and I knew straight away. I was like, oh, this isn't good. You know what I mean? When your mum sort of gets beyond. And so mum sat me down on her knee on the chair in the lounge, and I was getting towards, we had to get going for school. We were going to be late. And mum says to me, son, do you respect me? And I looked at mum, and I didn't know what that word meant. I thought it was a bad word. Do you not like me? Or do you, I thought it was something along those lines. And I looked at mum and I said, no. And I remember mum just putting me down. And I remember seeing the tears running down her face. And she walked away from me down the hallway. We had a long hallway in our big old house. And down the hallway to her room at the end of the hallway, she got in her bed and she covered herself with blankets and was sobbing. And I was just standing there beside the bed, just like, mum, I'm sorry. And here I was as a 5-year-old. I had no idea what I'd just done. All I knew was that I had upset my mum. And I remember in that moment, later in life, I discovered that this moment was a pivotal moment in my life and shaped who I was in relationships, particularly with women, was that, I never wanted to upset anyone ever again. And so I was always like the people pleaser. I never wanted to do anything to upset anyone. Right. And that come from that moment as a 5-year-old, feeling like I'd upset my mother. It was a bit like, my intention was to please her. Like I didn't think that, I thought I was saying that I didn't not like her. That's what I thought respect meant. I didn't know respect meant what it means. And so it's a bit like what's coming up for an analogy right now is a bit like, say you go to help an older woman across the road, an elderly woman, and you think you're doing the right thing, a kind gesture, and instead of it going that way, the woman turns around and says to me, "What do you think? I'm not able to do it on my own? You prick." Like just completely goes the other way.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt, just like complete ridicule and upset for something that I didn't realize I'd done.
Yeah.
That's my earliest memory.
That's quite funny as well, actually, like just thinking like there's so much, even though there's only 8 years between us, like there's also like 2 or 3 years of me being born and developing that I don't even remember. So it's basically 10 years of your life that I don't have much idea about. Didn't even realize that. I forgot that your mum was single mum for a while. Like I just assumed dad, and then Mark, your stepdad. Like that's like there's a lot of your life that it's just
I actually remember mum. Yeah, so my mum and dad, Ben and my dad, separated. This is to the best of my knowledge, like straight after I was born, me and my sister.
Okay.
And then mum had a house in Oamaru. It was 355A Thames Highway. And I actually remember we used to go out and stay with Mark. And I remember because Mark was there from very early on. Mark's my stepdad, who's basically been there as my father figure all my life, and still to this day. I can't speak of him highly enough. But back then, I actually remember this. You won't know this, Ben, but I remember. So we lived in Oamaru as kids from newborns till about the age of 6 or 7, and then we moved out to Duntroon and started our life in the country. And I actually remember the day that we came home, Mum sat us down, me and Jaleesa down in the lounge outside, just by the big window that overlooked the front of the house. And it was one of those big old windows that you could sit on the windowsill, like a, what do you call it? Is it convex when it's sticking out?
Yeah, like a bubble.
Or concave? I don't know, one of those
Convex
two.
sticks out, cave goes in.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a cave, yeah.
Yep. So it was like those windows, and you sit in the window. And she said to us kids, she says, "Oh, we're going to move." And we were like, she's like, "Yeah, we're going to move out to Mark's." And at this stage, we had been going out to Mark's quite regularly, from memory, maybe every month or so, go out for a weekend. And Mark would take us out spraying and doing all the fun stuff. And then when Mum said to us we're going to move out there, it was like, one, I remember being a little bit scared because I had made some friends at Oamaru because I'd started school. But also it was really exciting, like, because we loved it out there. It was always so exciting. And and then we moved out to Duntroon, and that's all you would have known of me being out there, eh?
Yeah, was that the same place next to like your grandparents?
Yeah. Granddad, so Mark's father and I, well, our family lived on the same property. So Granddad had the
house.
The house, the big house, and we had the little twizel house off to the side, but it was divided by the yard, the spray truck and sheep dipping yard. Yeah,
I remember that place.
And man, we had some fun there, like just. And you guys actually moved out to Duntroon after a wee while, didn't you? You just moved from
after that,
from Waimate out to Duntroon, and far out, we had some fun.
Okay.
Bikes.
Even like some of the things I get jealous of is like you guys would always go for bike rides and stuff, and I could never go with or like like trick-or-treating. I remember you went trick-or-treating one night and Mum wouldn't let me go. And I was like, this is crap.
Little Ben. Oh my goodness. I remember that time. Do you remember that sheep, that ram? One day, poor Ben, he was so much younger than us. He was just this little kid and he wanted to join in on all the stuff we did. And one of us kicked the ball over the fence and there were these rams in this paddock next door. And we're like, Ben, go and get the ball. And he's like, okay, wanted to just.
Help.
And so over he goes. He climbs over the fence and this ram lines him up. And just charges him and just knocks him over.
Smash me.
And we're all laughing. And then it just stands on him. Like,
one hoof like right on my nuts. I was like, come on.
And I'll never forget, it was so funny. Ben's lying on his back with this ram standing on him, and all you can hear is Ben, sheep, get off me, sheep.
So heavy, I couldn't move.
Did any of us go and help?
No, it just eventually got off me. It's the same. I remember do you remember that Gerard guy that Dad stayed with?
Oh yeah, that lived on Wheat-Bix.
Yeah, we went out into the paddock to pet one of the calves. It was a pretty big calf. It was getting close to fully grown. Well, that's how I remember it. It was huge compared to me. And all of a sudden it started bucking and everyone else just run off. And I was trying to run my little legs and this calf was like chasing me down. I was like, oh shit. And everyone's like, run, Ben, run. Already over the safe side of the fence.
No one would pick you up.
No.
Oh man.
Yeah. I always getting myself into trouble.
And then what happens next? So we're little. Well, I'm little. We're sort of going to have to do this in little staggered pieces.
Chapters.
Yeah. I guess for me, what next was, I went out to Duntroon and made a bunch of awesome friends out there, and really embraced the country living lifestyle. I mean, you sort of remember it. By that stage, I was well settled. And that area was like my turf. We knew where to go bike riding. We knew where to go swimming. Me and Jamie, Ben's older brother, my older brother, we used to go taking tractor tire tubes down the Marafanua River. That was awesome. And then I got a job on a local dairy farm where was actually, take a step back. So I had no, experience in farming, and other than, everyone at school were basically children of farmers. And then when I had a neighbour, or neighbours that were Devon and Daniel Allen. Do you remember those guys?
Yeah.
And Devon got a job on a local dairy farm, and he used to come and tell us all about how they teach them how to ride motorbikes and have all this fun. And I was like, man, that sounds like fun. And then subsequently, Mum ended up meeting the woman, the partner of the dude who was, getting Devon out to do the work, the farming couple, through Mum being the local bar lady at the pub. And they used to love drink and run together. And so I ended up meeting these guys just through Mum's, drinking with Heather, basically, Bevan and Heather. And so I ended up just going out there, and before I knew it, I was milking cows. I was 11 years old. I might have been 10 to start with. And so I was milking, there was the kick rail and a herringbone cow shed to protect your face from being kicked. Well, I was, a foot under that with my head. And so I was up there like trying to milk cows. I've got a broken shoulder at the moment, so I couldn't quite give you the what that looked like. Yeah. It was a bit higher than that. I'm sort of but and before I knew it, I had a paid gig out there, $30 of milking, and man, I loved it. It was awesome. It was like my for the first time, I felt like, it was more compelling to me than school. It was more compelling to me than any sports I'd undertaken. I was really good at playing tennis. I was really good at playing, I'd played a bit of rugby, but tennis was my thing. Squash was another thing. Racket sports were really my thing. But farming, man, it just gripped me, and it just became my obsession. And then started high school with that obsession, and all of a sudden went from being in the country school where you're in a country setting and talking about farming is just common and everyone does it, to all of a sudden going to high school in town. So I had to catch the bus into town every morning, into Oamaru, where I went to school at St. Kevin's, where all of a sudden that wasn't so accepted, my obsession with in particular dairy farming. And I got labelled like a freak and a weirdo, and all of a sudden I didn't belong,
How was St. Kevin's? I went to Waitaki, so I didn't really have that co-ed experience. But
yeah, it was, for someone like me who was scared of women, back from that episode when I was 5, we sort of talked about this earlier, Ben and I, about different stages of life and going through puberty. I was a late bloomer. I didn't hit puberty till well after I left school. And so when I was at school, talking like this, little Jonathan, and it was Jonathan back then. No one called me Jono till after I left school, but it was interesting feeling like I didn't belong through the context of being obsessed about farming and no one being able to relate to that. In fact, a lot of people even cursed me for that because they associated dairy farming with the decline of our water quality, which back then I didn't understand. I just felt like all of a sudden I didn't belong. But then there was this addition to that in this context of being at a co-ed school. And I remember coming back on a Monday morning from having worked all weekend on the farm, and that's all I'd do on the weekends. But other people evidently did other things, like go to parties and do these things like make out. And I was just like, what is that? I just couldn't fathom and couldn't relate to these discussions, like talking about making out with such and such. And there was even like boys at my school that were well beyond puberty and talking about things like, sexual activities, like from, masturbation through to, I can't remember the term, but I think it involved sexual activities, not involving both parties' genitals, but more hands and other, And I was just like, ugh. Yeah. And that made me even more scared of women. Like, oh, is that really? Yeah. Yeah, man. And so I probably didn't embrace the normal, what people thought of a co-ed school was probably quite cool. But for someone like me who was just so not interested in women in that respect, I didn't lose my virginity till I was bloody 18 or just about 18. And even that was like, God, it was, it was scary, and so, but to me, I never went to a all boys school, so I can't relate to that either. I remember there was always this bickering between Waitaki and St. Kevin's. We had the blood match every year, the first 15 rugby game between the two, and let's go ahead and call it the blood match. It was like this great rivalry. People used to smash.
Look forward to all year.
Like I remember St. Kevin's had like a big Oamaru stone sculpture destroyed one year. Like it got like nasty,
Yeah.
And I remember hearing things like Waitaki and you guys all used to do was play soggy biscuit.
Yeah, the hostel boys.
The hostel boys. Yeah. I won't describe what soggy biscuit is, but
no. I love the co-ed school. Other like just boys' school. Like I was the same. Like couldn't figure women out. Like they always seemed to be shitty at me. So when I got away from them, I was like, oh, this is so much better. No drama, just boys being boys playing rugby. Like that's good.
And you got a girlfriend quite young.
Oh, not really. 17. That was the first kiss at 17.
Yeah.
It's not much different to you, really.
No, true. True. But it was you guys were together for a long time, eh?
Yeah, close to 5 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably could have ended a bit sooner, but
Oh man, I can relate to that. Why don't we talk
yeah.
about that? We both went through similar things there.
I think it is that not wanting to upset people, it's just like, shit, I'm not happy here, but I don't want to upset her, and I don't know if I'd be able to get another girlfriend. That was my thought at the time.
The fear of it all, yeah.
Yeah, man.
And like for me, yeah, because I soon met Taylor, who became, my wife and the mother of my children. Met her when I was 19, and yeah, like you, not much experience there, and it felt nice to have a girlfriend. Like all of a sudden, you didn't have that anxiety around needing to find someone, and like you, I had that fear of not wanting to upset anyone. So I spent 10 years with Taylor, and we had 2 children, and we actually got married. And through all of that experience, although we were a good team and like we were good friends, we didn't have that spark. And like I'm sure you could see that. Like I was suppressed.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at the time. And I just sort of thought, well, this is it, like this is just the way it is. I'd never been, in love to the level in which I now know love to be, after having actually fallen in love now with my partner now. But at the time it was just like I had this context going, like our dad, whose name Dudley, he was sort of known as like a, I don't know, what do you say, being like womanizer.
Yeah, he got around.
Had all these kids with different partners, and well, not really just the 2, but and to his credit, he also took on being the father of children that weren't his as well, Jamie and Ange.
Dropped out for a second, mate.
That's okay. Good. You didn't drop out on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had this context going, and all of my family was saying to me about how my dad is such a piece of crap, and you don't want to be like him. And even Taylor, my ex, used to say to me, "Oh, you're going to be just like your father," and I was all just so scared of leaving because I didn't want to be like my dad leaving, like what I had in my head that he did to us. He never left us. Him and my mum just didn't. They weren't suitable. And so, of course, when you're a child, you go with your mother generally. And so I felt like I was sort of stuck in that relationship because I didn't want to upset Taylor like you. I didn't want to think I'd have to find someone else. And once you have kids, man, it's very
funny as well with Dad. Like, it was pretty sweet as a kid. Like, I never really had that big of an issue. And then, like, just with everyone else in the family constantly saying, oh, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I guess, yeah. And then just like when I did start getting into games more, and he's a sport man and a work man, like there was a bit of disagreement there, and I just started to resent him, like with everything else going on. It's just, but that was sort of like shaped me a lot as a man too. It was like, oh, can't be like Dad. I've got to almost be the opposite of what he is. Like,
dude, this is exactly the same as me. Exactly the same. And a lot of that dialogue and stuff that shaped our perception of Dad was nothing to do with us, was it?
No, like we get along fine.
Yeah, like how long I spent probably 6 years not talking to him.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him for 10.
Yeah. And so, you spent a long time with Natalie. What did she leave you in the end, or what happened there?
Yeah, she ended up leaving me.
Yeah.
we had a bit of a rough patch for a while, and I'd like, because we were doing the whole distance thing, and like I loved her not being there. Like, it sounds bad, but like I was waiting for like the time she'd leave so I could go back to my normal life.
But you couldn't say that
But
to her.
no, I couldn't say that to her. No. And just, yeah, like differences in personalities and stuff started sort of, and once you do stop, like you fall out of love, you start noticing these things more and more, and
Or you
it's
dig
just,
them up.
yeah, that too. Yeah, that was a big one.
It's the same here, bro. Like Taylor and I, we worked well as parents, and it was that sort of traditional. I did the working thing on farms and managed farms and went through my farming career and then contracting, agronomy stuff. While Taylor looked after the house at home, and she did an amazing job at that. Always had the house clean, always cooked, always, I'd always come home to a clean house, but we just didn't have, you talk about that falling out of love. We probably did that for the last, probably 6 years of the relationship, like probably when we had kids, and that brought on a whole nother level of stress and responsibility. And I was able to go to work, and Taylor viewed that as like, she'd use it often in conversations like, well, you get to go to work. I can't leave this, like talking about her responsibilities at the house. And, she never went and did anything outside of the house. And so like she endured a lot. And we just started to resent each other, and it never got nasty, but I did suppress a lot of myself to try and be the person that I thought she wanted me to be. I was the people pleaser, a lot of it coming back from that time with my mum at 5. I wanted to not upset her. I even started to sort of relate to like Taylor's father and his relationship. I remember Taylor's father saying to me really early on in our relationship, because the woman and Taylor's family are really strong-willed, and the men sort of just do what they're told, is like this thing where, and I remember Taylor's dad saying to me one day, she said, Jono, pretty soon, mate, you're going to learn how to sit down and piss. He said, you've got to in this family, mate. These women, they run the show. And I always thought that was just a joke. And then all of a sudden I started buying into that and started playing the victim and started going around to my friends and saying, oh, Taylor makes me do this and I have to do that. And poor Jono, sob, wah, poor me. And man, no wonder there was no love there. Like, who would want to be around that?
Yeah.
It wasn't until after Taylor left that I started to discover these things. But yeah, it's crazy. Like we know we're, like now more than ever, I can appreciate life after having had the last month to sort of reflect. Yeah. Why would you muck around and not be who you are and express yourself just to please other people? Like, it's so not what it's about, is it? And the fear that stops you from taking action when you're doing, when you're stuck in that rut or when you're stuck in that situation, it's not real. Like, what you're fearing is not justifiable. Like, I was fearing being a bad person. I was fearing what are people going to think of me if I leave? And it was just like, I was never going to leave. It was as simple as that. I would just never have left. And so
that's funny as well, just taking action coming into that, like with strong-willed women and things. Like, after that first relationship, once I'd sort of started getting back into the market, like developing confidence and everything, like I remember like I went around to a girl's house and I like went to the toilet quickly before continuing things, and she like got shitty at me for leaving the toilet seat up, and I was like, what the hell? Like, you could just ask me to put the like she was like, did you leave the toilet seat up? And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. And she's like, that's not okay in my house. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was just like, I literally walked out of her house. I was like, I'm not putting up with this. I don't have time for people that it just get shitty for no reason. Like, What?
But did you
Yeah.
always do that? Like, or
No,
was that?
like before that, I would have just like cowered, like been like, oh shit, sorry.
Yeah. I'll
Like,
never do that again.
yeah. I've always tried to avoid conflict in my life, like, and I like guess that leads. Like, I've never been in a fight, like a physical confrontation in my life. I've always
But you
been able
wouldn't
to
want to.
avoid it.
Look at the size of those guns.
Like, it's just yeah, like I hate just anger and like I guess violence. And
Yeah.
but
I've never
it's,
seen you angry.
no, like if it happens, I'm like, oh, I've got to get out of this situation.
I like you
But,
can feel it coming on.
yeah, like I've had a couple situations, like even just being out in town, where all of a sudden like felt my fists clench, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the turning point for you going from being the victim to actually taking responsibility for, staying authentic?
For me, I think it was like starting a relationship again with Dad. Like
Mm.
I didn't feel like I had power in the relationship. It was just like do what he says, or he might get grumpy. Like,
Mm.
try and keep things as pleasant as possible.
Yeah.
But like after not speaking to him for 10 years and like initiating that, I sort of gained that control back. Like
Mm.
it's up to me on whether he has this relationship with me or not. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just literally taking control of my life.
And, for me, and this is where Ben and I started to click. Like, this is where, because I could see it in Ben through his relationship with Natalie. In the early days, they were amazing for each other. And it was just like, you didn't worry about Ben. He's all good. And then I started seeing signs of, frayed edges and a bit of weakness appearing, and Ben being a bit suppressed. And, I got to know you pretty well, such that I could tell when things weren't right.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
When did you notice that? Do you mind if I ask that?
It was probably only about a year before the end of your relationship, when things were, because you and I didn't, like I said, I just didn't worry about you. When you were with Natalie, it was just like, I knew she was looking after you, and I knew you guys were happy. And I was happy for you. I was almost jealous because
I remember
my
we used
relationship,
to talk, because even just about love, and you're like, I don't even know if like we have that. I remember you saying this.
no,
Like,
I
I
didn't.
could see it. Like, but it's something you don't want to say to someone. Like,
No.
are you guys even like? It's so like.
And even during my wedding, like I just remember doing it I wanted to please Taylor's family. It's like, oh, we'd been together for 6 years. This is what you do.
Yeah.
Taylor's mum sort of said to me, oh, here's this ring. Do you want to put that on our daughter? One night when we were up drinking. And of course, you just, okay, well, that's what's happening now. I'll do that. And even during the wedding, like Taylor and I didn't dance. It just felt like this great fraud, like even it was like this great lie. And I think both of us were aware of it. We just couldn't, we didn't want to upset people. We wanted to have that image of happy family, kids, nice vehicles, boat, nice house, good career. And it was like this great elephant in the room. And like, I know that we only got to know each other a bit later in life, but surely through family dialogue and conversation, like, could you tell with me that it was off, or was it just?
Are you talking about like offers and like just not working, or?
Yeah, like that. I was not being myself. I was suppressing myself. Because when I was in it, I didn't know that I was doing that. I just thought, this is what you do. It's about compromise. Remember people saying, well, it's compromise. You got to adapt. You got to do you got to come halfway, all this stuff. And I just sold out. It wasn't until later, after doing like the Landmark Forum, that I discovered, soon after Taylor and I separated, I did the Landmark Forum. Ben ended up doing it as well. That was probably a whole nother level of our relationship, bro, you and me, and just getting authentic and clear on communication.
Yeah.
And that's when I first looked back at, like, Taylor used to say to me, you don't listen, Jono, you just don't listen. And I had no idea what it was to be present. Like, what does that even mean back then? It was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And Taylor said to me, you don't listen. And in my head, I'm like, so not listening. It's not even funny. And all I'm doing is thinking, she's saying I'm not listening. I'm watching her mouth move. I'm listening. And then I did the Landmark Forum, and part of that is, getting complete with your past, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Holy shit. For 10 years of my life, I didn't listen.
Yeah.
And probably for more, but for 10 years with Taylor, I didn't listen. No way.
I remember, I don't know if I was with Jamie or not, but we came around to your house, and were you living in Leaston?
Probably. In the new house.
Yeah. And you'd just come home from work, and we were playing like Guitar Hero or something, and Taylor was trying to talk to you. You didn't even answer her, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And then she got shitty and sort of stormed off, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was sort of sitting there awkwardly. I was like, "Is this what happens in a relationship?"
That must have been so awkward. And like looking back, like that's the example we set for our children. Like I'm just so grateful that she left, that she, had the courage to up and leave, because man, I would never have done it.
No, I'm the same, and like I felt so terrible when I was broken up with, but I can look back on it now. I was like, that's probably the best thing that could have happened for me. Like, yeah.
And for me, after Taylor left, or just before Taylor left, I went from managing the local chemical company, Ellesmere Chemical Applicators and Helicopters, to managing a local mixed cropping sheep and beef organic farm. That was a really big change in my life, a big shift in my thinking from having, all chemical answers, controlling, weeds, insects, disease with chemicals, to all of a sudden not having the ability to use those chemicals. I had to really start thinking and shifting the way I viewed growing, and shifting the way I viewed soil was a big part. And that really changed my thinking and added a whole nother level of, like, all of a sudden I went from being the expert, and that was a comfortable space. I had the wife and kids at home. I'd done the dairying thing, got really good at the dairying thing, moved away from that into the chemical agronomy thing, because I was at the point where I was either going to have to go and actually got offered to have a contract milking job, but the financials didn't stack up. So I stayed at a management level, and then ended up taking this job as a chemical agronomist and managing the helicopter and chemical company. And some of those skills were relatable and exchangeable. I was able to take a lot of skills from the dairying industry to my role as the manager and agronomist for the local chemical company, being responsible for applying chemicals to anything from specialty small seed, hybrid seed crops, to dairy pastures, to native bushland, the whole lot. I was responsible for applying and coming up with different chemicals to apply, all in the context of controlling and manipulating nature. And that rippled out into my relationship as well. And back then, when I was suppressing myself in my relationship, not doing what I wanted to do, doing what everyone else wanted me to do, it leaves you in a pretty disempowered state. And it's only when things get quiet, as in when I'd get home from work, put the kids to bed, Taylor would go to bed soon after, and I'd be left by myself. And that's when everything comes home. When you've got no distractions, when I'm not out there working. Work for me was just this great distraction. It wasn't until I finished work, got home, the kids were in bed, Taylor was in bed, that everything would come home to roost. Like all my inauthenticities coming up at me, all these uncomfortable feelings of selling out and feeling like you're not, good enough, all these things. And that's when I really relied on cannabis to sleep at night. Like I just couldn't sleep. It was what I did for so long. You'll remember that. It was a big part of my life, wasn't it? I couldn't relax.
Yeah, I remember like even just like asking you one day, I was like, "Are you even enjoying this? Like, it seems like you're just forcing it in," and you're like, "No, I'm sweet." I'm like,
Yeah. Was that the weed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, like you get to a certain time of night, everyone's in bed, and I'd go out to the garage and just blow my head off, wouldn't I?
Yeah, like you cough and you ring it, and like it sounded terrible. And I was like, "You can probably stop," and you're like, "No."
No, need to keep going. Just get myself absolutely obliterated, and then just walk from the garage to my bed and go to sleep. Or I pretend that I wanted to sit up and hang out with you guys, go and sit in the lounge, and then what would I do? Fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny as well. You're saying like you felt like an expert at this when you were you had this set life, but I only really sort of started seeing like your intelligence and everything once you started this new like the job out in Hearts Creek, like when you actually had to start thinking. Like it wasn't just this thing that had already been discovered, it was something you were having to explore, and
Yeah.
that was a big change I seen for you.
Was that
And
after Taylor left, or was that even
that was
before?
probably after.
Yeah.
Like, cause yeah, like you'd always worked, but had always seen it as just like, oh, you're just driving tractors, and like you'd been the car guy, and to be honest, I kind of seen you as a bit of a bogan.
I was a bogan.
Yeah, and yeah, but once you started at Hearts Creek, I was like, holy shit, like how do you know all this stuff? Like you're doing all these like cool new things, and like even just your Snapchat, seeing how happy you
Oh
were.
yeah, I started doing Snapchat.
And
Yeah, I started thinking like I could make a difference. And I remember, yeah, I used to do Snapchat when I was doing the chemical thing because I just thought what I was doing was cool, helicopters and all this cool
yeah,
gear. And then at Hearts Creek, I actually started to talk about like, you know, how much I was enjoying doing what I was doing and getting the kids out and showing everyone that you can have this life that you can create yourself. And
yeah,
and even that was all through being really unhappy in my marriage. It was like this elephant in the room. And then when Taylor left one day, it was unplanned. It was, well, for me, it was unplanned. She might have been planning it for a while, bless her. But I remember just waking up one morning. I was having a bit of a sleep in, and got up at like 6:30, and Taylor just said to me, she said, Jono, she was upset because I hadn't done the dishes the night before going to bed, like I said I would, and I did say I would, and I didn't. And she was really upset about that. And she said, I want you to take the kids and go for a bike ride with them or something. Just go for a walk with them for an hour or so. And when you come back, I'm going to have my bags packed and we're going to leave. I'm leaving you. And I just remember it just hit me just like, whoa, I was not expecting that.
yeah.
And like, she was clearly upset, like it was huge for her. And I'd take my hat off to her that she did it. She cried as she was leaving. I could tell it was a big deal for her, but she still did it. And that's when things really got uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable enough going from the controlling and understanding, having everything, what to do in my job, basically in a book, using the Novachem manual and my knowledge of how to kill weeds and plants and pests and diseases, to not having that stuff, having to get creative and starting to shift my thinking there. That was a challenge. All of a sudden, wife and kids left. We had a house together. I had to find my own house after 10 years of being in a relationship. Like I didn't, I had to, when I was a bachelor, before I met Taylor when I was a teenager, cooking for me was lasagna toppers, chips in the deep fryer, poached eggs, bacon, just that sort of crap. Nothing wrong with poached eggs and bacon, but I had to really learn to live again, like learn to do the washing, learn to keep the house clean, come home and cook. It had to find a place, rented for the first time in my life, rented a house. Aside from when I rented down in Dunedin when I was a young lad, 17. But yeah, it was a whole nother level of challenge for me. And we probably weren't that close at that time. And I felt isolated.
I think we'd sort of just started after, because I remember you called me after Taylor left you, and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like I almost didn't expect it, like, because like you say, we didn't talk that much. But then like, yeah, it's like you started doing some of the landmark stuff, and everyone else was like, oh, he's just in this bloody cult, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I could start seeing real changes in you, and I was like, what is this thing? But I remember one day you were saying like learning to cook. I made dinner for us once while you were at work. I was staying with you for a couple of days. I think it might have been after I come back from my overseas trip. And
Did you come up and do the forum in Christchurch, or did you do it in
that was in
Auckland?
Christchurch, yeah.
Did you stay with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, yeah, it was just something basic. We had like silver side in a slow cooker, and then just like a vegetable bake and stuff. And you were like, "How did you make the sauce?" It's just a basic cheese sauce. And I was
I
like,
used to ring you,
I was
bro.
like, "What do
That
you?"
sauce.
Yeah. I was
How
like,
do
"What
I
do you
make
mean?"
it?
Yeah. And I was like, "Holy shit! Like, how have you made it this far without knowing how to cook?"
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
that's
And
cool.
now,
Huh?
like,
And
I
now you're
can,
doing all these
yeah,
things, and even like with the guitar, I'm like, "Holy shit! Like, this is cool." Like, you just
yeah.
find out,
Just do it.
yeah, man. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
And yeah. Why don't we talk a bit about about the forum and we both. I mean, it definitely changed me. It didn't change me. It just gave me tools to do what I wanted to do. Like
yeah.
I I worked for a guy, Tim Chamberlain, at the Harts Creek Farm, who done the forum shit over 20 years ago. And he literally puts a lot of his success, or in fact, he used to say all of his success, down to him doing it. Shit your tank, bro. Look at this side. I've lost a lot of weight since I've been out of action.
Crippled.
Yeah. My left arm's like fizzled away to nothing. But anyway, I had Tim saying to me all the time about this thing, the Landmark Forum, and I was just like, what is this weird thing? I was righteous and arrogant and so not interested in anything that was, like, to me, weird or airy fairy. Like I was sort of considered myself as like some sort of atheist. Not that Landmark has anything to do with religion, it doesn't. It was Tim used to say to me, "Oh, just go and do it. It's I'll pay for it. It's a 3-day course. You get to discover a lot about yourself, and you get to realize that whatever you want for yourself in your life is possible." And I was just like, what
3 days.
bullshit. Yeah, 3 days. And I used to say things like that. I don't have anything wrong with me, Tim. Like, I used to think that you had to have something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And he even paid for me to do it, right? Which was $820 or something. And I didn't go. That was when I was with Taylor. And I remember when I was telling Taylor about it, she'd get on Google and look up on Google, find all this stuff that people would write about it being a cult and all this weird stuff from people that hadn't done it, of course.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Taylor left that I started to consider it. And then one moment in particular was actually I was at Nicole Masters' workshop, and she said to me, it was actually to the whole group of people at the end of the 2-day workshop, she says, "Now you've learned a lot this weekend." She said the biggest thing between where you're at now and where you strive to be and taking all of the stuff on is yourselves. She said, get yourself out of the way and go and do the Landmark Forum. And that was what she ended on. And I was just like,
Wow.
and I thought Nicole was amazing. I thought she was incredible. And for her to say that, I was just like, oh my God, that's that thing that Tim was talking about, that thing that I thought was weird.
Yeah.
And at this point, just prior to Taylor leaving, prior to me going to this Nicole Masters thing, which was a pivotal moment in itself, learning what I did with Nicole. But before that, I was booked in to go and do the forum in Christchurch, and I didn't go. I just didn't. I had the time off booked. Tim had booked for me to go. Those things are non-refundable. And I didn't go. I just didn't go. $825 Tim lost. And yeah, I was just that stubborn. It wasn't until Taylor left, I'd, been hit. That was what I describe as the hitting the wall moment for me. And then hearing Nicole talk about the forum and what she got out of it, I was just like, right, I'm going to go and do it. And so I said to Tim one day, I remember ringing him. I remember the conversation vividly. It was about 3 years ago. I said to Tim, I said, oh man, I'd love to do the forum. And he was like, what's brought on this sudden change? And Tim was always so awesome and supportive. And I was like, I've just been, listening to Nicole, and Nicole mentioned it, and he was just like, well, this time I'm going to just pay half. And you're going to pay the other half. I was like, man, I didn't even expect him to pay any. I was willing to pay for it. And no, he paid for half. And I went and did it, and wow, discovered that all these stories I'd told myself all my life. You know, it was doing the forum that had me really connect with you.
Yeah.
It was doing the forum that really had me connect with my family. Like my mother, you know, told her I loved her for the first time in a long time, sober, you know. Talking to dad, just getting
Yeah.
complete with all of this baggage. And I remember leaving on the Sunday with this feeling of just such a weight lifted off, and just like the world had opened up for me. Like I went from seeing the world like this to just seeing it for all its beauty, and looking at people not from who I judged them to be without even having talked to this person. You know, this is in Christchurch, where I was seeing more people than I was used to being out in the country. And I remember walking out on the Sunday on the dinner, going out for dinner, just like looking at these people, just like, wow, just in complete awe and wonder of all these people. And it was a massive change in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you about it too. And it must have been weird for you, like hearing me just open up and be really authentic. And I remember,
Yeah.
you know, we just started, I'd tell you every time we spoke, you know, I love you, bro. And yeah. Oh, love you too.
You
You know?
love it. That's dodgy man. We do a little.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
went from being the staunchy man to like this authentic and real and open.
I remember like even just like the clearing conversations between us and stuff, and then like everyone else would be like complaining, "Oh, Jono's trying to ring me again." I'm like, "Why are you upset that like your brother or your family member's trying to ring you?"
Yeah.
Like
To
at least he's
talk.
ringing. Like no one really calls me like out of the rest of the family.
No.
Like Rachel does, but like I don't understand. Mum's very busy at the moment, but I
Rachel
don't think.
doesn't call me Rachel.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, bro, for
Oh,
sure. And I remember feeling like that. Like
mm,
people probably thought, oh, God, what does Jono want? Because I didn't
uh,
talk to them for decades.
and just the bluntness you were able to have with us, like you said, like you're a people pleaser before. Like when you were blunt with me, like saying like, you know, you think I'm capable of so much more, and like, I thought I was like doing a bit, but I suppose I was just working at the works at the time. But like so I'd sort of grown up with people being like, oh, you're gonna do so many cool things. Like always did well in school and everything, and I was always just whatever. I'm happy just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And but then yeah, like when you called me and were just blunt with me, and you're like, I want you to come along to the intro night. And I was like, well, fuck it. Like, what's the harm in coming along and checking this thing out?
Mm.
And even just from that intro night, I was like, holy shit, man! I can do so much more, and I need to do this thing. And then I was going, they were like trying to get me to sign up for that one. And I was like, oh, I'm going overseas. And they're like, no, come do this first. And you were like, you should do it before you go overseas. And I was like, nah, it'll be fine. I'll do it when I get back. I wish I had done it beforehand. Like, I still had an amazing time, but just like being able to get past like that social barrier for me,
Yeah.
and I did, going overseas did help with that. But
Yeah, we talked a lot, you going overseas, and you started to call me a lot more. You know,
yeah,
like it felt like to me, what it was for me was like possibly you felt like you could talk to me for the first time ever because I was actually listening.
yeah, man.
Or I
Like,
didn't never used to listen. I would just be listening for what I didn't agree with, or waiting for
yeah,
my opportunity to speak, you know?
yeah, for sure. You could see it like even in a conversation, you'd almost be like itching, like you'd be like, yeah, my turn.
Yeah. Get out of the way.
Yeah, stop talking.
Oh,
Mm,
I remember getting
yeah.
some really cool calls from you off your face in some random part of the country. Oh, bro, I think I've taken too much, whatever drug you were taking.
Yeah.
I don't know if am I going to be okay? You're going to be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I'm walking down the street to some random country at 5 in the morning.
Lost. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't have any idea where I was.
The sun was up.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh shit.
Oh man.
Yeah,
And then you come home and did the
signed
forum.
up and did it. And yeah, got complete with all my past and started talking to dad again. And
That must have been, imagine that for him. Like, you know, now I've got kids, like I can't imagine my kids not talking to me for 10 years and then
mm, Even like it was quite funny, like the phone call when I first called him. Like it didn't. It was like we hadn't not been talking for 10 years. I was like, "Oh, hey, Dad." He's like, "Oh, how are you?" Like, and I was just like, "I want to hang out," and he's like, "Yeah, I'd love that." And I was like, "What the hell?" Like,
There
I
was no
expected that to
like
be
judgment or resentment from him.
no, yeah. It was just like, "Yeah, let's do this." Like, I was
I
like,
even
"Well,
remember him saying to me, like, I knew that this would come.
yeah,
And he said to me that he was just giving me the space to come when I was ready.
hmm, yeah."
All the time I thought he was just this wanker that,
Yeah.
Maria, your mum, you wanker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you and I just fucking clicked
Fuck yeah.
like most unexpected relationship from being so big in our age gap, the youngest and the oldest,
Yeah.
or
Second
oldest
oldest.
Frew, yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie's the oldest, but
Having nothing in common really. Like we had things in common, but we never really talked about it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I remember even like that first hunting trip we went on years ago, like before the outbreak and everything.
Oh, that
That
was
was so
so
cool.
cool.
I love that.
That was awesome, eh? We
Just
didn't shoot anything, but
you tried.
we shot at there was yeah. It was like a 1100-meter shot with a 222 that was not going to work. I just couldn't help myself,
You reloaded twice and they
Yeah.
still didn't hit anything.
5-shot magazine.
Yeah. I remember being like, because I was like, "Can I take a shot?" And you're like, "No, no, no, I'll keep it."
Had to do everything, man.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah. And then we did the introduction leaders program together. That was probably a whole nother level for us.
Oh, that's full on. And just like being like having that excuse to come see each other more. Like
Shit, man, you were coming up from Dunedin, driving up to
every
Christchurch
second week.
yeah,
Just about felt like it was stupid.
yeah. But you did it, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I
That
remember
was awesome for me. Like you coming up and staying, and we'd
I
cook a
loved it.
feed. And remember, we went and bought my first suit together because
Yeah, I
we
gave
had
you my one.
you gave it, and it was huge, it was way too big.
Too tight for me, but you on you.
Oh, actually, wasn't too bad on me, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then
No, like, it was all right, but it definitely could have fitted better. Like,
going to Auckland and together, and
climbing
that
those
was
trees in the park, and people just looking at us. We're like, what?
yeah. You guys aren't keen to climb a tree?
Yeah, like no.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Man. And I never really travelled.
No.
Never really left the South Island. Like it was a big deal when Taylor and I went to Wellington once. That was a big deal. And then all of a sudden, in the space of like a year, I went to Auckland, must have been 10 times. Went to Melbourne. I went to Thailand.
Get out of it. Yeah.
Hello, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it crazy now? Like once you do get, Tim was right, getting yourself out of the way when Nicole, when she said that, like, and then I started, started to see like just amazing people, not people that, I disagreed with or people that I judged for not being suitable people to talk to or whatever, like I did before. Yeah. And then like dating was always such a scary thing for me. Like I was so not interested in dating.
Yeah.
And hello. Oh, there's 2 dogs.
Yeah, there's 2 dogs.
Who's that one?
God. This is Theon.
Hello. Oh,
come
wow. That one's beautiful.
Sit down.
Oh, and look at you now, bro.
Sit over there.
Happy ears with the dogs.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that dog's beautiful.
This one helped a lot just because we got him as a puppy just after lockdown.
Wow.
Being able to lead him near my face without being afraid because puppy can't do too much damage.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Well, bro, puppies have sharp teeth.
They do, but they're only little ones. They're not going to tear my face up as bad.
Yeah, as bad.
Yeah.
But no, it was like from that, like the last 2 years for us, holy moly.
I feel like I've only started living in these last 2 years.
Same.
even just like last year with going to Christchurch all the time, like I had my day planned down to every half hour. Like
Dude,
the productivity like is
yeah.
insane. Like,
And like just getting really structured. Like
yeah,
like you and I, integrity wasn't something that we talked about. All of a sudden, integrity was everything.
everything.
Like
Yeah,
when we say we're going to be on a call at 10:30, it's on the call at 10:30. If
yeah,
we
man.
if we had an ETA, we almost didn't do ETAs because
No, it was
we're not
just we'll turn up.
estimating. It was,
Yeah,
yeah, we're going to be here at this time.
yeah, yeah,
And
and like
watching you develop, bro, like watching you do what you're doing now, like you went from you were studying, you were doing a bit at the works to all of a sudden getting out of your comfort zone with
mm,
women, and like
yeah.
watching you, thrive in those situations where you used to, flee and avoid.
Even when I look at, like, I was talking to one of my classmates the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna get a job over the holidays?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, maybe." And he was like, "I just don't know if I have time." I was like, "Mate, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm training multiple people. I'm doing like multiple placements, and I've still got time. Like,
You
you've
were
got time."
going when you were doing the introduction leaders program, man. You were coming up. You was on the
I was
phone,
coaching a rugby team. I was
dude.
fucking
People are like, "Who was your brother Ben? Like, he's insane." And
mm,
I was just like blown away by, dude. You just became this big. Remember you and I would have conversations every now and then. You'd feel disempowered about something, and would say that
that's a little bit.
that's little Ben.
Yeah,
Where's Big Ben? And then all of a
yeah,
sudden, Big Ben would come out.
yeah.
Like I look at you now, you're just like content. You're out there doing everything with such grace.
Mm,
You're like, dude, working with the disabled, helping people that are less fortunate with the health that we have.
yeah,
I guess now's a pretty good time to talk about the crash.
yeah.
We haven't really talked about the crash. So
No.
yeah, last month on the day, 24th of October, the kids and I were, so my son Bo and my daughter Harper. Bo's 4, turning 5 next week, actually, week after next. And my daughter, she was 7 at the time. She turned 8 on the 28th of last month in hospital.
Yeah.
We were driving to Twizel to go jet boating and play around on the jet skis at Lake Ruataniwha with my mate Chunky, and heading over, and this dude just missed a corner and just drove straight over the center line, and boom, just 100k head on. And man, it was, the impact was unreal. I was driving a decent sized truck, and yeah, I remember just bracing for the impact. I could see him coming, and he was going that fast that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to avoid him. And I just ripped the steering wheel to the right because he was already coming over at a trajectory where if I'd turned left, we would have just met in the middle. And he wasn't, he was just, there was no,
Yeah.
there was no sign of any correction. And so I ripped the steering wheel to the right. And I remember just bracing. Actually, I was up last night thinking about, I actually remember making a noise. Like I just remember seeing it, and I just remember going, just like
You
making like
do
this.
it.
Yeah. I
It's
remember it.
literally bracing. Like,
Yeah. And just bang.
yeah.
And holy moly, man. Like,
Did you lose consciousness at all
there might have been like a split second, because
from the
my
impact?
first, from the impact to my first functional thought was a voice saying, "Oh my God, are you okay?"
Yeah.
And the people behind had got out and come to the door. So there might have been like a couple of
Brief one.
seconds of just like, and there was a
Yeah.
huge lump on the back of my head,
Ugh.
and under my chin was just like massive.
Yeah.
And I remember just straight away, just, oh my God, the kids. And just, I got out of the truck, stood on my feet, felt my body go to collapse because I could feel something weird in my belly region, like in my back. And then just something just hit me, like this overwhelming energy or something just came over me, and I just remember pushing up and just standing up and turning. And it was the longest couple of seconds in my life, because I was, you know, I just, my focus was getting to the kids. You know, I needed to, and I could hear Harper. I knew she was okay. I couldn't hear Bo.
Yeah.
And seeing them both with their eyes open was just like, oh my God. And so, I was like, right, I've got to get these kids out. And, you know, my first aid brain kicked in as well. And, you know, thankfully from the work I've done, I was able to be just really clear and calm and present, rather than getting, you know, freaked out or whatever most people do. I stayed calm, and I didn't even have to tell myself to be calm. It's just like what you do when you've, you know, not that I've finished my self-development journey, but like it was just, I don't need to remind myself to be calm.
Yeah.
There's the odd thing that throws me, but that didn't. And so I had this person here helping. By that stage, there was another couple of people there from other vehicles. Got Harper out. She had a sore arm. I was like, right, get her away to safety. And then I had to walk around to Bo's side. He was on the passenger side. I remember walking around the back, stepping over a stream of oil and what looked like diesel.
Ooh.
And so I was like, I've got to get him out.
Yeah.
And couldn't get his door open. His door was a lot more damaged than Harper and my door. And so I walked back around. I remember saying to him, Bo, it's okay, Dad's here, and I'm coming to get you out. And he was just starting to sob, and got round, went to climb in the truck and realized I couldn't do that. And so got one of the lovely people that were there to help me get him out. And I remember saying, right, his neck, watch his neck. And we got him out, and I asked that he be passed on to me. And so I carried him for maybe 5 steps before I realized, no, this is not safe. You know, I could feel there was no pain at that point, but there was limitations to my movement, and I could feel something in here. It was like, you know, later found out there was 4 smashed vertebrae in my back. But anyway, laid down on the side of the road and just had these people holding my children, really clearly organizing people, you know, made sure ambulance was called, made sure that all my, you know, family, made sure Ruby was called up. Yeah. Ruby's my partner. Actually, I called her I called Taylor, the kid's mum, which, you know, that was hard to hear. Probably one of the worst phone calls Taylor's ever had. But being able to be calm was really important. And then same with Ruby. And even Ruby said to me that I was so calm that she didn't realize it was a bad accident. She thought that it must have just been like something little. It wasn't until one of the other people that were there, when I rang Taylor and Ruby, we didn't know where we were going. We knew that choppers were on the way. At that point, the ambulance had turned up, and they said, no, we're just going to get the choppers here, 2 of them, one from Dunedin, one from Christchurch. And when we found out we were going to Christchurch, on the side of the road, I asked one of the lovely people there to call up Ruby and Taylor and tell them, right, we're going to Christchurch. And Ruby said that it was at that point she thought, shit, what has actually happened? And when the woman passed me the phone to tell Ruby what had happened, I said, you know, we've had a 100-kilometre-an-hour head-on collision. And she was just like, oh my God, you know, when we got to Christchurch, she was there. She manages a dairy farm, and she was able to just get everything organised on the farm and head on up. But no, so sitting there on the side of the road, and then Bo started to vomit, which was a bit scary. He was really pale. Harper was saying, you know, her arm was wiggly. She had a complete fissure in her humerus. And so she went in a chopper on her own, and I was lifted onto a stretcher, and Bo was placed on me to go in the other helicopter to Christchurch. And we got to Christchurch, and Bo was put in his own bed, and I was given some pain relief. And we had the scans done and everything, and Bo was actually put into an induced coma because there was a bit of swelling on his brain, and a bit of blood around the base of his brain from the whiplash, and ligament damage in his neck. Harper was, you know, she had the x-ray done, her arm was broken. She got the operate, or she was put under to get her arm aligned and then cast. And yeah, then I was told I had 4 squished vertebrae, compressed vertebrae, 1 completely smashed, 8 broken ribs, a broken shoulder, and 2 broken bones in my foot, and that I was going to need an operation on my back and have some titanium rods put in. And at the same time, I was told by the doctor he was going to put a finger up my ass and ask me to clench. And I was just like, oh, lovely. This is a lot of not so pleasant news at once. And Ruby was right there. And I remember saying that his name was Phil, Dr. Phil. He was a bloody good bugger. I was like, we're going to skip some pleasantries, aren't we, you and I? And he's like, roll over. So, okay, rolling over. And I said to him, I said, you poor man. He said, you're the first person that's ever been more concerned about me than yourself doing this. I said,
I had curry for lunch.
And so no, got that done, and I could feel everything and was able to clench. And so yeah, it was pretty. I was later when I looked at the X-rays of my spine, it was squished. Like my spinal cord was squished. Ooh. And thinking back to what I did with walking and getting the kids out, and then lying on the side of the road, rolling between the children. I had Harper on my right and Bo on my left.
Yeah.
And looking back, like, how on earth, am I? And so I ended up spending a lot of time in hospital. Bo went up to Starship. Taylor went up with him. We had Taylor's husband there, Ruben, and Taylor's parents were all just amazing, looking after Harper. Ruben stayed behind with Harper for a long time before going up to Starship with Taylor. Taylor went up with Bo, of course, and it was a long time of 2 and a bit weeks in hospital. We're going through lots of feelings and reflection, and
it's funny, like with like the whole what do you call it, being, what do they say with landmark being like
reasonable,
unreasonable. That's on. I was at work on Saturday and I get a call from Terry, like Jamie's partner, saying that like you'd been in an accident, you're on the way to Christchurch and someone was dead. And I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I probably didn't mention that the other guy died.
But I'd like no idea like what state you were in or what the kids were in. And so I was like, fuck man, like I told my workmate, and he was like, oh, you can go home. And I was sitting there at home, I was like, shit, what do I do? Do I go up? Like, do they need, like, is there any point in me going up? Are they in any state to be visited? And I called Dad to let him know, and he's like, right, come here, we're going up now. And I was like, we don't know if they're okay. Like, we don't know, like, whether we'll even be allowed to see them or anything. He's like, doesn't matter, we're going.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I was like, right, I'm coming.
Wow.
And so we drove up together, and funnily enough, there was a big 4-car crash in Burnham that we got diverted from. But yeah, getting there, it was, as soon as I found out that no one was gonna die, I was like, oh, thank fuck. Like,
yeah,
like, because we just had no idea, and like, I almost felt guilty, to be honest, for a wee while, because everyone else, like Dad, whenever he told people about it, he'd start crying, and like everyone else was so upset and didn't know what to do. But I just felt like almost like cold. I was just like, we're good.
You're not cold. You're not. Nah. You're just dealing with what we learn, at Landmark, is to not add meaning.
Yeah.
Just deal with what's so, not adding story.
I think that was it, but I just felt guilty for some reason. It was really funny.
Yeah. Now people, people ring me and say, what a traumatic event, and I say, no.
Yeah, you can add
not
traumatic.
You can say to me, people say, oh, it was horrific, and I say, well, no, it's not. Like, this is how people get, these ridiculous, like talking about PTSD and all this, stuff. It's like, well, you can make it whatever you want. For me, what happened was what happened, and a guy crossed the center line and hit us, and we survived. We're alive. Sure, we've got a long way to go to recover, but tell me the trauma. Tell me what's horrific.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. And it's been the same with me as well. Like even with like the epilepsy and the crash that I had, like people are like, "Oh, you poor thing." It's what happened. Like
Yeah.
it hasn't changed in any way. All I got to do now is take a pill. Like, it's not like
Yeah. What happened there,
what's the
bro?
point of feeling sorry for myself?
Because
It
that
was
was a
quite
pretty big thing.
yeah, like
You had
it
just
was like
broken up with
3 or 4
Natalie.
years ago. Yeah, well, like so I had a seizure beforehand when I was still with her, and I was getting unchanged to have a shower with her, and then all of a sudden I just blacked out, fell through a window and hit my head on the toilet, and because like my lip got split open, and Natalie had just seen me fall through the window and there was glass everywhere. She thought I'd slit my neck because there's just blood pouring out, and she sort of screamed, and her whole flat ran in, see me naked on the ground, spazzing out. And then I sort of woke up. Like apparently I'd been talking to the ambulance guy for ages, but I'd no recollection of that.
Hmm.
And they'd sort of said, you probably shouldn't drive, but like then I'd go ahead and say, oh, but you can just have one, so you probably won't have another one. And so I was like 20 years old. I was like, fuck that, I'm not gonna not drive. And like I hadn't like I waited for a while before I did drive, but like I hadn't had another one, so I was like, fuck it. Like this is a bit of an inconvenience. I'm just gonna start driving again. Like they never took my license off me or anything. And then one day I was just driving to work, and same thing happened, just blacked out. And I had my cousin actually was driving behind me, Scotty, and he said he could see like my arms like going like this. And he was like, I thought you were just like rocking out to the music or something. And then all of a sudden my car crossed the centre line, crashed into another one of your grandparents' fences,
Mm.
and then came to a stop just outside a cafe in Oamaru.
Oh, did you go right through
I went right through,
both
hit the fence.
fences?
Well, I didn't go through the fence. I like bounced off it, and then I guess the car stalled, and I stopped in the car park of 469.
Wow. So you crossed
Um,
two roads.
just yeah, yeah. Luckily didn't hit anyone else, and yeah, woke up in an ambulance. And I was like, oh shit, what the hell's happening here? But it was just lucky, like another couple minutes, and I would have been in the 100k sort of zone, and
Yeah.
could have been a lot worse. Didn't get any injuries. Like
Yeah.
I think I had a split lip from the airbag going off, but that's about it. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I've always sort of just joked about it. I don't care. Like it hasn't changed me in any way. Like,
Yeah. You're not
it's
a
just
victim of your
no,
circumstances. Yeah.
exactly. Like,
Yeah. And so now we're both doing pretty big stuff. Sure, I've got some limitations.
mm,
So I guess
all gonna
going
work.
back for those of you, there's a bit of a gap there. I went from managing Harts Creek Farm to doing the forum to starting to develop myself, doing a couple more landmark courses, one with Ben, and becoming, you know, a real leader. Becoming someone that's able to be authentic and real, and someone that's able to take action, and really be responsible and really hold a high level of integrity. Man, things started to change for me. I started to, learn at a rate I'd never learned before about, soil health and ecosystem function. Started to really apply myself to that. Started to become really good at just day-to-day things. Like I was really good at like keeping on top of my washing. I was really particular with how I kept my house. What a lot of what we learned through doing the Introduction Leaders program is, keeping a tidy environment, and holding a high level of of service. So walking, never leaving a bathroom, like always leaving a bathroom more tidy than the way in which you entered it. Little things like that, and things just really started to move me. I got to a point where I'd been at Harts Creek for 3 years, and George Chamberlain, Tim's son, came home from Auckland with no real intention of taking over the farm, but very quickly developed a desire to. I sort of started to think, well, now what am I going to do? I've got all this new knowledge and passion for regenerative agriculture. I started a group called Quorum Sense, and got a team of guys around me to run that. We started it with the first people I rang were Nigel Greenwood and Simon Osborne. So those two became, co-founders with me. We started this discussion group, which now has become a charitable trust, of which I'm the treasurer for and a board member. That group's now taken on a project with MPI, worth $1.89 million for the next 3 years, and it's become 3,000 members strong. It's unbelievable. That wasn't something that was predictable in my previous, context or perception of life. At that same time, I was coming to the end of my time at Harts Creek, or so it seems. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? Started to feel old feelings of like resignation and disappointment. And then I'm like, what are you doing? So I thought to myself, why don't I start a business? And that was unlikely, because the first crash I ever had, talking about crashes and numbers now, the first crash I had, the 100K head on down in Southland, where I broke my femur and broke my kneecap. That cost me $96,000. So I was bankrupt at 19. And it was unlikely that I was going to start a business on my own. But again, being the unreasonable human that I became, that I am now, I was like, well, I'm not going to let that stop me. And I remember having conversations with my family, like my stepdad, Mark, saying, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to be a farm consultant. He's like, you can't just do that. You've got responsibilities. You've got child support to pay. You've got, you can't just do that. And I normally would have listened to him because I respect him a lot. And I was just like, I really get that. And I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
And going through the motions of not feeling like I was ready and I'm not good enough, and nope, not going to listen to that dialogue. And so, I started Natural Performance Limited, started coaching people all around New Zealand and around the world, started doing a lot of public speaking. Really quickly, was told and figured out that I was quite good at that. Started really telling my story. Started doing speaking gigs with Quorum Sense and with Natural Performance. Did a nationwide tour this year with Peter Barrett from Lindburn Station, where we travelled in camper vans from the top of the North Island to the bottom of the South, did 27 seminars, spoke to it was nearly 3,000 people. That was just an unbelievable experience. Met the woman of my dreams, Ruby, recently in the last sort of 7 or 8 months, earlier this year, actually just after a Tool concert we met. That Tool concert we went to, what a night. That was incredible. But and then also through the time of starting Natural Performance, I worked for a guy called Simon Osborne, who helped co-found Quorum Sense. Was able to work for him to keep the cash flow going while I grew a business from nothing. Got to the point where I was able to step away and had to deal with the growth in Natural Performance. So stepped away and have now been a full-time farm consultant for the last almost year. And in that time started a seed company with Peter Barrett, who I was just talking about, from Lindburn Station. We started Symbiosis Ag Limited, where we create customized, context-specific diverse species seed mixes and supply them to farmers around New Zealand. And looking at my life, I'm now living with Ruby, my partner. She is the love of my life. Like, just can't believe she is just the most amazing woman. I just look at her and just complete awe and wonder every time I see her. And it's reciprocated. It's mutual. And having this relationship with my kids, looking at them in the same awe and wonder what they've been dealing with. I'm looking at these little photos. Here's one of little Bo and Harper when they were little bubbas. Here's Harper at her first year at Western School, and here's little Bo, Peter calls him Bowiata. Here's Bowiata last year at kindy. Just beautiful little children. And I'm just looking at them like, wow. And recently, in the last sort of few months of my life, looking into, myself and doing a lot of self-development and really being responsible for the way I show up in the world, responsible for the energy that I put out there, setting, my integrity, my level of vibration, and as a result attracting all these amazing people, having these most amazing relationships with people, and growing and developing that every day is just like a bit unbelievable when you go back to how we were just some 3 odd years ago.
Oh, yeah. That's funny, like, because Dad always talks about I should have been a car salesman. Like, he's got the gift of the gab.
Who about me?
Nah, he says that about himself.
Oh God, he says a lot about himself. Yeah,
But
but he does have the gift of the gab, doesn't he?
yeah, I think we definitely did inherit some of that.
Yeah.
But I think, like, with the landmark, it's just developed our ability to really connect with people. Like, I find it, like, even just in my own work, like working with like unemployed youth, like some of these kids, like I've had people that were above me previously that really struggled to like get these kids to interact, and like they would just sort of go off the rails. But I've found I've just been having a lot of success just with them now that I'm in control. I'm sort of doing things my way and just able to actually connect with these people instead of just treating them like, oh, I've got you for this amount of weeks.
Yeah.
You're just a, what do you
An
call it?
object.
Just an object or a component of what we're doing. You're a person, and I want to make a difference in your life. And I think they pick up on that, like just it's insane. And even just saying, I've just had a group come back from LSV, which is a youth development program up at the Burnham military camp. I got flown up there to check on them. They've had a 6-week course up there, and the difference, man, like the confidence in some of them, like, and now like I'm getting to develop them further. Like I've got them for another 3.5 weeks, and it's just like, even just like, there's one girl, she was so anxious she wouldn't even turn up to our training sessions because she was so anxious. Now, like, she won't stop talking to everyone, and she's like, man, I just want to get so fit. Like, I'm loving exercise. I'm like, fuck yeah.
What is it? And like, can you imagine for those people, bro, like
Mm,
what it's like having someone actually give a shit about them,
yeah,
and not just give a shit, but listen and front up and dedicate time and energy to that person?
yeah,
Can you imagine that?
yeah, man. And
Like,
like,
and how
even,
rare that is, sadly.
yeah, fuck yeah. So many people, like, they say they're listening, but they'll hear what you say, and they'll keep doing things exactly the same. Like,
Yeah.
I hear what these people are saying, and I'm actively going out to change, like, everything. I'm dedicating more of my time to this. Like, it's just like, man,
Actions, bro.
like, yeah,
Give us actions. Like, the world really doesn't care for intention, does it?
no, no, God, no.
Yeah.
I've like all my life I've had these intentions, like, oh, I'm gonna make a difference in the world. I'm gonna make a difference in the world, and like, you just do it. Like, go get it and do it. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
take huge actions either. Like, it's like they say, like, like you hit that wall, small steps.
Yeah.
It's like a scrum, even like collide against something. You just do those little steps. Don't try and drive them off.
Yeah.
Just little steps.
Yeah.
And you'll win it.
The key is it's I think it's beyond persistence and beyond repetition, but just digging in. Like, at the moment I'm listening to David Goggins. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Wow, man, just like the things that he went through to go from being a kid brought up on the wrong side of town in a white supremacist area of America as a little black kid with a abusive father and disconnected and separated family, and
Yeah.
all this turmoil, to being a world leader and like an Navy SEAL, and it's just like that was unpredictable, but through action and through just like, life is one big thing that I've got out of that, and through my inquiry into self-development, is if you want to be comfortable, don't expect to have great things happen in your life. Like, if that's the attachment is comfort, if that's the goal, then sure, but as a result, you're not going to get that level of joy and satisfaction that you would get if you were to take a step out into the discomfort, into the uncomfortable, into the unknown.
Yeah. And even just like times where I have gone out into that uncomfortable, even though it hasn't necessarily been as successful as I wanted, like the growth and just the opportunities that have been exposed to me from doing it, it's been like, holy shit. Like even with like coaching that rugby team last year, like I was doubting myself the whole time, thinking like, you know, 'cause I hadn't played rugby for so long, like just didn't feel like I was giving these boys what they needed. But like they still said they appreciated me, they appreciated the fresh approach I brought. Like I was teaching them like jujitsu shit as well, like just shit that had nothing to do with rugby, but had some carryover. And they were like, "Oh, it's nice to not just be running laps or doing drills for once." Like, and then just being exposed to like working with ex-All Blacks, ex-Highlanders, like just super cool things, like getting insights from them. Like it was an awesome experience. And even just seeing them like when they'd win a game, like how happy they'd be. And like, we did pretty well for the season considering, you know, like it's a fresh team, fresh coaches and everything. Like it's cool.
And how easy is it to sort of forget who you are for others? Like through this last month of, you know, since the crash, I've had all these messages of support.
Yeah.
And people saying to me like the difference that I've made in their lives. And I'm just like, wow. Like sometimes you forget.
What do you mean?
You know, people I've never met. I was getting gifts for me and the kids from people I'd never met, you know, families from all over the country just saying, you know, thank you for the difference you've made. And I'm just like, you know, we get so sort of focused on our commitments, day-to-day actions that sometimes, and I've talked about this in previous episodes of the podcast, we don't often stop and just reflect. And because I've had so much time to stop and reflect, and I believe that that's had a big part to do with my healing and the rate in which I've been able to heal from my injuries, is like gratitude. So like I was introduced over the last couple of weeks since my accident to a man by the name of Joe Dispenza. And he in the late 80s was hit by a truck, a Ford Bronco, and at 55 mile an hour, and he was on a push bike, and it shattered 6 vertebrae in his spine. And the doctors were telling him, and he's the doctor himself, but the doctors that were treating him were saying he'd unlikely he'd walk again, and then he was going to need a surgery procedure, much like the one I had, with 2 titanium rods each side of your spine.
Yeah.
And he refused the treatment and checked himself out of the hospital and went home, and just went to work on his mind, and he believed in the mind-body connection, such that he decided to go home and really tune his mind in and try and, like, he was dealing with his mind drifting into spending a life in a wheelchair, and then bringing his thoughts back to being really clear with his intentions of healing his vertebrae. And he'd picture in his meditations healing and repairing his vertebrae one by one. He'd work his way down, because he's a doctor. He clearly understands and can visualize. And 6 weeks of that, one day he said something. He said, you know, just like that feeling when you hit a tennis ball, and I can relate to that, when you just whang and it just feels amazing. He said he hit this sweet spot this one day, this one meditation, and he just felt click. And from that day, he started to notice better motive function in his body.
Wow.
After 10 weeks, he was back training for the marathon. He was walking. He defied all odds. He'd gone to get scans. He completely healed and repaired his smashed vertebrae in his back. And now goes around talking about the power of your thoughts. If you're disempowered and in fear all the time, that literally affects your chemistry and gene expression in your body.
Yeah.
And so for the last 4 weeks, I've been really responsible for making sure I don't dip into fear. There was a moment where my back wound, which is pretty decent, it's like that down my back from my surgery, wouldn't heal, it wouldn't seal, and it was weeping quite a bit of ooze. And they were saying, you know, the doctor was saying, if it doesn't stop, we might have to operate again. And I was just like, man, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I just started visualizing healing. I had Ruby in there almost every day. She was coming and visiting me. She was there for my first few steps. She was there, and so like I was surrounded by love, and I could feel that love, and I was grateful for the fact that I could feel my hands, I could feel my feet, I could move. I was starting to able to walk with assistance with a frame that I was able to walk with, and miraculously, and there were times where I'd dip into like fear of like, holy shit, like if I had to have another operation, what if I get an infection on my spinal cord? All these things, and then just coming back to gratitude, coming back to, it's beyond positivity, man. This isn't positivity. This is intentional, getting really responsible for your thoughts. And I actually had a group of people in Leaston book out a room in Leaston, and a bunch of farmers and people who supported me came and sat down and did a intentional session. It was not quite a meditation. It wasn't quite a prayer session. It was sort of a mixture of everything just coming together and sending healing energy for me and my children. And I shit you not, they did that for 3 days. On the third day, we get word of Harper's being discharged. We get word of Bo coming out of his coma, making huge progress in his motor function, in his vocabulary and speech, and then almost like really quickly getting his like cheeky sense of humor. That was just like straight after that. And then all of a sudden, they were the two things that were most concerning to me, that were bringing the most fear, was my children.
Yeah.
Once they started to heal, no shit, I started to get really like things.
Stress.
Yeah, all that was gone. I was really happy and excited about the thought of, I was having Skype calls with them, video calls with them on Facebook Messenger, and it was just amazing. And all of a sudden, my back healed.
Yeah,
like it was crazy, man.
That's the thing as well. People don't realize that stress is literally like a hormone in your body. Like that's a chemical reaction that's happening. Like if you've got all these negative thoughts going on and stuff, that's literally causing bad shit to happen in your body.
You can create symptoms if you want. Seriously, I know people that have done it. And Joe Dispenza does these workshops where he brings all these people together. They spend 3 days together, and people literally have spontaneous remissions of terminal illnesses.
Yeah, there's like plenty of like anecdotal evidence, like with people with like cancer. They like, there's this. I was reading a story the other day about this guy, and like his family were all like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do? Like this is so bad." And he literally cut all communication off with his family so he could focus on being positive. No treatment with the doctors, and he was managed to heal, like get rid of this cancer. Like,
seriously, and it was hard for me to think about having that environment around my children because I wasn't there all the time. When Harper was in Christchurch, I was able to have orderlies take me down to see her in my bed, and so I could bring that space, bring that energy down. And then I got to the point where I was able to be taken down in a wheelchair. I was starting to sit up. Oh man, I've never appreciated being able to move without such pain. Like every little vibration on the ground, like just sending searing pain. And this is whilst I had a intravenous morphine that I could press a button on every 5 minutes. But still being able to bring that positive energy down to Harper and watching her feed off that. And dude, it's something that back in the day I would have dismissed as like bullshit or like fairy hippie shit. You know what I mean? When I was judgmental. Now, like right now, you would not think that I broke 15 bones, would you?
Nah, you look fine. You don't even look like you had an accident.
I've got a wee pillow here.
Yeah.
And like even if you look at my back, I'm going to give everyone a bit of a fright here. My hairy back, but look, it's healed. Okay, it's like unreal. There was a high likelihood that I was going to need an operation on that, and it was crazy. Like I come home and I was still not out of the woods. Like I was still having to go to the GP and get new dressings put on, and there was still risk of infection, and I was still having to take antibiotics. But it's phenomenal how quickly I've healed, man. And
even just hearing the positivity in your voice since like for the first couple of weeks you sounded quite like down, and I suppose that was when the kids were
Yeah, bro.
iffy.
Yeah.
Like even like just now, like you sound back to your old self. Like that's good.
Yeah.
So
I
much
feel,
better.
dude, I feel so grateful to be alive. Like the first sort of 7, 8 days, I never saw daylight. I was in a room where I wasn't able to see the sun. And then just things like seeing outside for the first time, I was just like, holy moly, just absolutely blown away and so grateful.
Yeah.
And it's probably been my biggest takeaway from the accident. It's just like, man, you used to hear people say, it's about the little things in life, and it, it used to be like, whatever,
Yeah.
And now, like, it seriously is like it's. I see just absolute beauty and wonder in everything, and I'm looking at things like this little Hata maybe this one day it was meant to be her eel with a turtle on the back.
Oh yeah.
And I've just been carrying this around with me for ages. It's quite cute, but
Nice.
just like the thought and effort that she put into that for me
Yeah. That's cool, man.
is pretty cool, eh? And like all the little things that most people would throw out and discard, like, here's a little note here that for most people wouldn't mean much, but
And you think back to like Dad with his birthday cards that we gave him and Christmas cards over the years that he's held on to. Like,
yeah, he kept them all.
no one, I don't know anyone whose family's done that.
Yeah.
Like, that's that being grateful is such a huge thing.
Mm. So what are you
And
grateful for at the moment, bro?
grateful that I've gotten through my bloody degree. I had a pretty rough point this year. I was being worried I wasn't going to pass one of my papers, but just knuckled down and got that done. And the funny thing is, like, the reason I passed so well is because of my placements, like how I've been with people. Like, that's given me huge marks, like, because they were like 50% of each paper, and I've just like pretty much aced them. So it's like,
Wow.
sweet. But grateful, just even just living in New Zealand, like we don't have to worry about all this COVID shit going on. Like you got to worry about it, like not so much worry, but like
not so much worry.
yeah, like
be
we're free
aware.
of it. Yeah, like you're aware that it could happen, but like that's something I don't have to stress about. Like I'm able to just relax and yeah, and just all the opportunities that I'm receiving. Like most people in my class, they've finished study for the year, so they've stopped their placements. Like I'm continuing through, like doing Iron Warriors until they stop for Christmas, training my clients until the 10th of December when the gym closes. Like
You're never finished, eh? Like we're never at a
no,
point where it's like, I'm done.
yeah, like I'm just grateful to be healthy, able to move. Like even after your accident, I'm like, fuck man, like I've got it pretty well. Like
Isn't it?
yeah, and just making the most of everything. Even like I've just been going for walks lately, like making the most of like Dunedin's got so many great like bush tracks and walks, and it's just been nice like to use that as another way to exercise, like
Yeah, bro.
not just my gym. Like,
I have
what
to
about
say,
yourself?
I'm really, really, I'm grateful for my family this year. Papa died, and that was really huge for me. I believe Papa was there at the crash. I even had someone come in and do a little bit of Reiki, which was something, I still don't really understand it, but this woman came in. She's actually a friend of mine, and she was down at my feet, sort of just holding my feet, and I was just in silence. And
That's like energy transfer, right? Like
yeah,
Reiki.
energy healing sort of thing.
Yeah,
And then she came out to my head and just sort of had her hand on my head, and then all of a sudden I could hear her after about 10 or 15 minutes, I could hear just like sobbing.
yeah,
And then when she took her hand off my head, I opened my eyes, and I could see Carrie smiling and with tears, and she says, your grandfather is here,
yeah.
and he was there at the crash.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, that makes so much sense. She's like, that energy that you felt when you were feeling yourself go down, but you come back up, he was giving that to you. And I was just like, wow. I've reached this level of spirituality now, and I'm comfortable saying that. Like, I believe that there is more to life than just what's here on earth, without a doubt, and I'm just discovering more of that each day. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to put a label on it now, but I know that energy, vibration, spirituality, it's not something to be dismissed as bullshit. It's been a big part.
I've always felt almost like, I want to say like I've always believed, yeah, and there's something else going on there, like with that energy. Like even just like I get a lot of deja vu. Like I'll dream about things and they'll happen.
Or like you've had an experience before, or
Yeah.
you meet someone and you think,
Wow, like
I've known
instant
that
connection
person.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then like when I was overseas in Europe, I'd go to places and like, oh, I feel like I've been here before. Like, is there like someone else's consciousness like coming through to me? Like,
or a past life.
Yeah. I think like reincarnation, I feel like that's probably the biggest thing that I connect to, like in terms of spirituality. I'm like, it kind of makes sense. Like,
Well, Zach Bush talks about all we are just these white souls, and it doesn't matter like whether you are here as a human being or as a dog there sitting beside you. I forget his name.
Theon and Dembe.
That we die, and that it's like Zach Bush. He talks about this, and he talks about like when he was around people dying, and his time in palliative care and end of life care, and people dying and going into that space of white light, and for the first time in their life feeling accepted for the very first time. Like, how amazing is that? And then these guys bringing them back to life as the surgeons and as the hero of the day, and then these people just saying to him, and he said one night he had 3 of them, and they all said to him this one thing. He brought all these 3 people back to life who died biologically, and they all told the same story of going into the space of white light and feeling just this overwhelming sense of love and being accepted for the first time ever. He said they all said to him, each and every one of them said, "Why did you bring me back?" And he said that always felt like it sort of deflated him a little bit, like, oh,
piece of shit.
yeah. But yeah, it's like, seriously, like, you and I know, like, looking around, like, how many people just walking around just begging for acceptance, just trying to get acceptance from people. Everyone's, walking around feeling like they're not good enough, feeling judged and judging. Zach talks about what would it look like if we all just looked each other in awe and wonder and just said, "Hey, look, you're enough.
Yeah.
I accept you for the way you are." What would that do for that person if we all did that?
Yeah, man. I'm going to stop you one second. I'm just going to go to the toilet real quick.
Okay, I'll pause you there.
Yeah.
All right, Ben's evacuation is complete. Evacuation.
Yeah. Like you say with that acceptance and love, like I remember like coming out of the landmark thing each time, like everyone is there just loving each other, and you feel that, and like I'd come out of there feeling high, like higher than I've ever felt on any drug. Like,
yeah.
Like it's just like, whoa.
Imagine if the world could be like that, just accepting, no judgment, no additional meaning and baggage.
Okay. Quite, yeah. I've been looking into. There's a lot of studies being done recently into like LSD and magic mushrooms and things like that, and it's like literally alters like your brain chemistry, like it makes it be able to heal, like make new connections. So instead of like, say if you had like a traumatic event, your brain is more easily able to create new connections, so you're not having to fight against that connection that was made. So that's like, man,
it's called neurogenesis.
Yeah, and like neuroplasticity and stuff. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, man, nature. I actually with what I do with the seed mixes and the success we have with the symbiosis seed mixes, people always say, "Man, how do you do that?" I remember Peter saying to me one day, I was up at Lindburn, and he said to me, Peter said to me, he said, "You've got a really good way of answering those questions after having been out on the tour." And he said to me, "How do you go about doing that? Like how do you do that? And I said, Peter, it's really easy. When they ask, you know, how does it work? How do you achieve those results with no fertilizer? I just said to him, all I say is this: it's nature, bitch. Yeah. And so recently I said to Peter, I said, let's oh, excuse me, yeah. I have to call that guy back. I said to him, let's get some stickers made, some bumper stickers. It's nature, bitch.
I'll buy one.
Nature, man. It's pretty incredible. Like,
yeah, man.
Mushrooms, LSD is not so nature,
not so much,
but
yeah,
the mushrooms thing, man, I'm definitely open to that discussion.
Yeah.
I think it's probably not. Sorry, bro. Go ahead.
I just love, like, with this degree, like, learning about, like, because we have quite a big partnership with the local marae, and like we teach a lot of sort of Māori and beliefs and everything. It's like, man, like, I relate to it so much more, like, because I don't, like, so many people like to separate everything, but like nothing is in its own separate thing. Everything can relate. Everything's got carryover. Like,
it's not that everything can relate. Like, everything literally is connected. Every
like,
move that you know, every step you take, it has a chain. You know, the butterfly effect.
and it's just like, that's how I love it. Like, people do just, like, they neglect different areas of their life, and it has an effect on every other area of your life.
Yeah.
Like,
we have all these different specialists, like heart specialist and brain specialist and lung specialist, and no one's understanding. Like, when I was at hospital, people like couldn't understand. Like, they wanted to give me these painkillers that cause constipation, then give me laxatives to allow me to relieve the constipation. I'm just like, I was refusing. I was saying no, and people were like, you know,
wrong with you?
I'm just like, people come in with these, you know, on the charts, like time, it's all done on times. You know, you're ready for your next lot of pain relief. No. And like, I probably took 30% of what was offered to me. Right. And like, I just forget that, you know, our medical system is just still very much in that abstract, you know, it's linear. It's you know, very, very separate, you know, treatments of different areas of the body. And it's all very focused on controlling symptoms and treating symptoms, as opposed to looking at the cause of, you know, like, for instance, you get a rise in temperature. Okay, that's your body increasing the heat to deal with a bad bacteria that's in your body. Instead of letting the body get warm, we see a temperature as a bad thing, and we give medicine that drops your temperature, when it's the increased temperature that's actually your body's natural defense. It's crazy, man. And I think it's probably not a bad way to leave this podcast. I know we've been talking a while, and it's so easy to do with you, bro, but I think probably not a bad oh man, I was onto something then. It was what we're talking about. I just seen something distracted me, my OneDrive thing, so I had to do an update, so I had to pause that. Let me just pause that. What we're talking about, the
body doing its thing,
everything connected. Oh, more in the sense of okay, not being limited to reasons why not being like being open to things not being the way that they seem. You know, like people like my grandmother, and I love her to bits. She you know, gets frustrated at people that don't take their medicine. Like, and what we don't question anything. And I'm not saying to people don't take their medicine.
Yeah.
But do your own learning. Yeah. You know, be responsible for educating yourself in the areas for you that are important. Yeah. And it may not be regarding health. It may not be about medicine and you know, whatever I'm interested in. I'm not saying, you know, study the mind. I'm not saying study, you know, holistic health or anything like that. It's like, you can in this information age where everything's so available. Yeah, like there's no reason why you don't need a degree. You know, I have no degrees. I never went to university. I left school when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
That was all there when, you know, someone said to me, oh, you can't be a farm consultant. And like, I almost believed it. It's like, don't surround yourself with those people that, or like, if you're going to, at least be responsible for not taking on people's negativity.
Yeah.
Because very quickly you'll sell out, you'll come up short, or you'll accept coming up short, you know, like, but and the sad thing about a lot of human beings is, and it seems to be, it's not to do with the individuals that think like this, it's more just the world they showed up in, is people actually, and I learned this through my own experiences, but also through listening to people like David Goggins, who says, you know, people are actually quite happy for you to not meet your targets. You know, people like me and you who are out there doing big things, sadly, a lot of people feel a bit shit being around, you know, like those people that aren't responsible for doing what they want to be doing, or doing what they feel they should be doing, can be forgiven for feeling like a bit, you know, less if they're around inadequate. That's it. Yeah. Instead of, people don't take that in as like an opportunity of inspiration, or like an opportunity to learn, or gather some motivation and drive from those people. Most people are happy to say, hey, look, Ben, you know, don't worry about doing, you know, just stay at the freezing works. It's good money.
It's good money.
Yep.
Stable job.
It's, you know, it's safe. Like my grandfather before he died, you know, loved him to bits, always said to me, you know, just stay humble. Just go and get yourself a good job. Be a tradesman, he said. He wanted me to be a tradesman.
Yeah.
And just look after your family. Get yourself that house. And that was for him the most important thing. And it's interesting the significance that we add to different stages of our life. Like there was a point where I believed that. That's all I wanted was just a house. And I'm like, well, actually, no, now I want to make a difference and change what it is for me to be a human being. What is it for me? What's important to me?
Yeah.
Making a difference, creating a world that works aligned with nature. And how do you do that? Well, every day I'm working it out.
Okay. That's it. No one's got the answer. Just
give
it a go. Give it a go.
Sorry, bro, I interrupted you. You were going to say something.
Just like what you're saying with your granddad, like Dad still says to me, "Oh, you should have been a builder." I'm like, I don't want to be a builder. I want to help people.
Yeah. Man, what's next? We always talked about doing something together, and this feels cool. This, like, I feel like we've got a lot to give together. We talked about doing like some sort of a workshop or a presentation together, where, you know, I talk about soil health and growing food and ecosystem function, and you can talk about, you know, personal health and fitness and well-being. Like, how cool would that be together, bro?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm looking at, for my community project next year, is to set up like a kind of like a communal thing where like you can get like a cheap or free meal, and then like to sort of like pay for that meal, you go in and like there'll just be a bunch of different exercise classes like dance or like martial art or just gym stuff, and like you go and do your half-hour class, then you get a free meal, like nutritious meal, and just have like networking tables and stuff just to connect people more, get that community going again.
Well, what a, you know, better time than now to put that out there to the world, because now, you know, you got to be accountable for that.
Yeah, you prick.
All right, bro. Well, let's I want to thank you for putting the time aside and, you know, coming on and chatting with your big little bro. And I'm really grateful to have you in my life, and I'm really glad that we, you know, have been able to share the experiences that we have. And you know, like even recently, you know, feeling certain emotions come up through my, you know, healing, and I know that I can always just give you a call, and it's so good to know that you're there. So thank you, bro.
It's all good, bro. Love you.
I love you too, bro. Take care.
Take care.